Starting to act kind of weird. The crew surrounds the bathroom. Flight attendants took my passport to write a report against me, banning me from an airline. Crying on the floor and like banging against the wall and like screaming. I'm running out of coffee. Did you start it? Hello. Welcome back to my channel, if I'm gonna call it that. We're starting this YouTube thing. It's slow, it'll work, but 2019 is a year to be kind and considerate and not a nasty person. So just give us a little time and it'll work, okay? It's just thank you for being here. Anyway, we just came back from Europe. We were traveling for like 3 weeks. We were in Italy, Monaco, France, and Spain. Yeah, it was a really nice time. 2018 was a very busy year for both of us. We were working a ton, so it was nice to just have some time to call me time. Anyways, we're still editing some of our videos. We're gonna post some travel videos for a couple of the places that we went to. Still editing that because we have to catch up on some other stuff, because for all of you that are self-employed, you know that just because you decide you're on vacation, the rest of the world decides that you are not. So anyway, we're making this video first though because we wanted to share this kind of crazy story that we ran into. So let me start it this way. I'll start it this way. I feel like you're judging me. No, it's okay. Anyways, fuck you. I'm gonna start it with kind of like a 1.5 disclaimer. First of all, everyone is free to make their own choices. If you want to use drugs and alcohol in your life, that's fine. I'm not gonna control you. But if you notice that either you or someone you love has a problem, don't be a loser. Be there for them, support them. If it's becoming a problem and impacting their life in a negative way, speak up, even if it pisses them off. Speak up and help your friend, help yourself, whatever. I'm not trying to demean in any way, shape, or form people who are maybe dealing with substance issues or those sorts of things. I just want to tell this story from my perspective and how it affected not only myself, but a lot of other people. The second kind of halvesy disclaimer is everyone has travel stories, obviously, of, nightmare occurrences and such, but to just, pad my own resume. I fly about 150,000 miles a year on average, so I think I kind of run into a lot of different types of people, and I think in the past 4 or 5 years of flying over 100,000 miles per year, this is probably one of the craziest ones, so that's why we're sharing. Anyway, story time. So we were flying from Barcelona, Spain to Kutaisi, Georgia, because we didn't have a direct flight home, so we just kind of had to piece it together, I guess is the best way of putting it. Very few of you can relate probably, but if you live in certain parts of the world, it's very complicated to get back home, but that's a different issue. Anyways, we were like 2 hours into maybe a 5-hour flight, and everything was pretty normal. We were just doing what we usually do, watching movies, counting down the time until we arrived, that kind of shit. There was this woman who was like starting to act kind of weird. There was turbulence, but she kept trying to get up and go to the toilet. And all of the crew kept saying, please sit, like if it's not an emergency, please sit, just wait a few minutes. And eventually the seatbelt sign turns off, she like flies out of her chair into the bathroom, and it's like, okay, whatever. But it's actually, this is where it starts to get weird. Almost immediately, like the crew surrounds the bathroom kind of, and then as soon as she opens the door, they confront her and say like, we know you were smoking in the bathroom, give us the cigarette butt or something, whatever, that kind of thing. And she was just like strangely calm about it. She was combative. I mean, she was saying, no, I wasn't doing anything, whatever. But after a very short period of time, she was like, oh yeah, okay, fine, like I was, whatever, and just pushes past them and goes back to her seat. This is where it's like, you can tell something is like wrong as well, because Then you see the crew walk by, they ask her for her passport because they're going to write like an incidents report because, as you know, you can't smoke on planes. And she just like willingly hands her passport to them. She's like, whatever. I don't think she has any idea of what's going on. And the other thing that makes it really weird, I think she was traveling with like either 3 or 4 other people. They didn't really seem concerned about what she was doing, about what was happening, that sort of thing. So anyways, 20 minutes go by, and then I think she finally realizes like, oh, the flight attendants took my passport to write a report against me, which starts the process of banning me from an airline. And she magically becomes concerned. So she starts like yelling, she starts punching, like I think she was traveling with her brother and her boyfriend or something. She starts like scratching them, she's yelling to everyone. It's also weird because we have a language barrier. She only speaks Russian. The flight attendants don't speak Russian, they speak probably like Georgian, Spanish, and English or something like that. Plenty of people on the plane speak Russian, but nobody's translating. Yeah, so she becomes very like violent about it and magically upset too. It's like, I don't know if she's confused or like trying to act her way out of it, but it's like, sweetie, you committed a felony or whatever, misdemeanor or whatever, like crying isn't going to solve the problem. So anyway, she's totally fine for like an hour. And then she tries to get up and go smoke in the bathroom again. I mean, I don't know if she's thinking like, I already committed the crime, might as well do it again, because, you know, at this point it doesn't matter, or what. But she tries to do it again, she gets in a fight with the crew, and then the crew starts telling us like, oh, you know, we might have to make an emergency landing in Turkey because of her. And that's when I was kind of concerned actually, because American passport holders need a visa for Turkey and mine's expired, so it takes like 2 seconds to get a visa. It's not a problem, but it's like I don't really want to go somewhere that I'm not planning to go just because someone thinks they need a cigarette. That being said, she kind of like gets it together for a little bit, and then she tries using the other bathroom in the plane, and then she's like 2 minutes later she's in the front of the plane again, like crying on the floor and like banging against the wall and like screaming, and her family or friends or something, like some of them are there trying to like comfort her, and then she like pushes them away and goes back to her chair. So it's just like, it's a very chaotic situation, and it's like, you know, even if you don't travel that much, you always run into weird people when you travel. I'm sure I'm the center of people's stories as well, for one thing or another, but this was just like, this wasn't affecting me really. I mean, I'm just kind of sitting there watching, but it's like, it's affecting the whole plane. And you could see at this point too that like the crew is very stressed out because they had to fill out all of these papers of like what happened. They have to like lock up the bathroom so that like airline officials can investigate and officially say like, yes, she was doing this, whatever. The pilots are probably a little stressed too because like they're probably speaking back and forth like, okay, do we have to make a landing here? Do we have to do this? Like, I don't know. I mean, it's just like, it's a very simple issue. They say don't smoke on a plane, and you smoke on a plane. It might seem small, but it like really screws things up. A plane is basically a computer in the sky. It knows if you've done something that you shouldn't do, and you're trying to fight against it. It's like, could you not? I'm just trying to go home, thank you very much. I'd like to sleep in my own bed for once. Anyway, the whole thing really wasn't too big of a deal until it just became a big deal, because ultimately you're in a little like soda can flying through the sky and you're trapped with crazy people. So not really exactly what I wanted to end my holiday with, but that's what you get. But yeah, it was actually kind of the, no pun intended, pinnacle of the story, is that before we landed, they came back to her with her passport and paperwork and told her in English, even though she doesn't speak English, but that's a different story, you are officially banned from all flights on this airline for the rest of your life, as are these people that are traveling with you because you did X, Y, and Z. And it's like, I don't know if she cared. Like, honestly, it's like, you're flying an airline to an area that doesn't have too many flights, and you're being told, like, you can't get on your return flight to wherever you're going. And she was like, I don't give a shit. So it was weird. But anyways, then we arrive in Kutaisi. 4 or 5 police member come on board, and like before we can exit the plane, they review the documentation. The flight attendants like hand over all this information, and then that group of people are escorted off the plane. You'll see in footage, you know, real live footage that I snuck with my phone. But it was also kind of weird because it's like she committed a major crime in terms of like aviation security, and they just like walk her across the runway kind of thing. Like, they don't separate the rest of the people from this party, whatever. But yeah, it's like, once again, as I said earlier, if you know people are having problems with drugs and alcohol, mental health, these sorts of things, speak up for them, because they might not realize what they're doing, or like, you're not always aware of how your actions are affecting others. And so in this case, it's a very confusing situation. There were like 4 or 5 of them traveling together, and it's like, I think the others knew what she was doing, but they weren't really stopping her. They tried to calm her down later, but like, I don't know. And this is very confusing and chaotic and can't even speak. Anyways, I don't think she really realized what was happening until she was on the ground and going into police questioning, because as you'll see in one of the clips as well, she tries to like wander away from her police escort and then yells at them in Russian, like, fuck you, basically. So I think it took her a while. It put, I think, everyone on the flight and realized kind of what was going on, and it's like, everyone knows that they can't do anything because you're in the sky and you can't control it. But it's also stressful for everyone else because it's like, okay, you know, are we making an emergency landing? What do we have to do when we arrive? Blah, blah, blah. So anyways, eventually we arrive at 3 in the morning and things are wonderful. Icing on the cake is we're waiting in baggage claim. You can see into passport control. And one of the people that she was traveling with is standing in passport control with a cigarette in his mouth. Not lit yet, but like waiting to light it until after he clears passport. And it's like, I don't smoke, but if I did, I think I would just like wait like a day, maybe. You know, it's in bad taste. But anyway, final disclaimer, we flew Wizz Air for this flight. This video is not sponsored, but if you want to sponsor me, feel free. I love free stuff. But I would like to say that I think it was handled very properly. As we've seen in the past year with airline incidents, you know, United might drag you off a flight, for example. This didn't happen. It was handled very professionally. You could tell that the whole crew was like very stressed out by the whole thing. But they were always respectful to this woman and the people she was traveling with. They were never violent. They never threatened her. And they tried to keep everyone else calm and keep their experience like as normal as possible. So Wizz Air, good job. Your crew did what it was supposed to do. But that being said, if you want to know how to be banned from an airline for life, now you know. Anyway, stay tuned for future videos. We're editing a lot of footage that we took while we were traveling. We'll have travel videos for places in Italy, Monaco, France, and Spain coming up. Also, a new blog will be published soon, so you can actually check out the written articles as well, if you're like me and you're old and you don't like to watch videos all the time. Yeah, otherwise, thanks for watching for those of you that are early watchers and subscribers, and shoot us a message or like comment or whatever, like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and we'll get back to you. So, thanks for watching.